Hello, my name is PolishLynx and let's continue with Umeda Sky by ATP Projects. But this movie with Japan, I would feel as if it changed her very slightly. There's a popular Japanese television game show called What's Deceit, and a few months ago Elisa was a celebrity competitor on it. It was the first time she has done anything like this, before this appearing only on television interviews. I would have watched it and be so surprised at how wonderfully charming, funny and intelligent she was. Without her formal clothes, dressed in a very pretty skirt and a simple top, with her hair being loose, I would almost fall in love with her. But whatever that feeling would be, I would get more interested in her and start looking up some more information, slowly leading to me proposing to my editor to write an article with an exclusive interview. After a month of setting it up, I would finally get to the confirmation, and today I would be here with her. Well, you are welcome, she would say as I'd snap out of my thoughts. I meant to say I thought it was going to be more difficult to get through. I'm sure you have a lot of requests. I do. There are many these days. I would think aloud before continuing. It's noticeable you are seen more in public these days. Does it have something to do with that? I don't really know, honestly. Well, for what it's worth, I think it's a good thing. I would say even thought there would be no proof of whether it is good or bad. I'm not sure. Well, did it feel cool being on What's Deceit? I asked, trying to help. And no, it didn't really feel that special, but that's not on record. I didn't mean to say this stuff and the audience weren't kind. Of course not, Thank you, she would say, smiling. I would go through this conversation from the beginning in my head, finding alternatives to what she would have said and what I would have said. I imagined it one again and again, but the essence of it remained the same. Elisa would be someone who was trying to do something, but she didn't know what it was yet. I didn't even want to make any comparisons to me and my situation when this vacation was about something that I wanted to do physically. So in my thought up scenarios, with me being a reporter and Elisa the shipyard mogul, what Elisa was trying to find was not necessarily the same thing I wanted to find. After spending some time looking at Osaka from above, I realized my situation once again, in full. It was me, Keiichi Shibata, and I was going on vacation to Europe tomorrow. Not only that, but I have had a really wonderful day so far. I went shopping and now I was here, on top of the Umeda Sky building. Think about the reality of me going away. And this story I made up for myself, trying to fit it into the environment I was in. It was the first one I thought up, but I was starting to like it. I meant to have many different stories to think about. Like that I was rich and lived in the south of France. Or that I was a Japanese poet traveling Europe for inspiration. I had one idea where I would be an art expert having guest lectures at French universities. And many more that I was sure I would think of when I was there as well. And yet, this one, the first one, I grew to like it more and more. I was thinking what a person like Elisa could possibly want. Not in terms of love, but something else. Considering the idea of her being in that game shop, I was thinking about what a woman like her would feel she needs when she has everything. Like me, I choose to ignore something like personal happiness, especially in love. For my story, Elisa was single, but her being alone wasn't the source of her discomfort. And provided she had everything else, like health, beauty, everything material. I found myself walking around the top of the Umeda Sky building, with my pretend interview stopped, because I couldn't think of anything else. I was thinking about how Elisa could look like, but much like with all my dreams, it was only a very vague form that had no specifics. I imagined her as a woman in her late 30s, like myself. I imagined her having long hair because I liked long hair. A simple dress because it was summer, and no makeup. But other than that, I was stuck. It didn't matter though. I knew it would come back, and while it was too bad that my imagination had stopped here, I knew from my own experience that those daydreams only last for so long until my energy is gone. Then they come back again, but there is always a point when the scenario is not moving on and it falls apart. I decided therefore to let it be. I stopped and looked around again. Osaka, my hometown. Tomorrow I would board the airplane and with one transfer be landing in Nice tomorrow. I had my whole vacation planned already, and I wanted to go and see my most desired place first. It was Nice, but it wasn't Nice, but it was close to Nice. Nice had the airport, but where I really wanted to go was Monaco. So to spend my first few days in and around Nice, and later in the week take the train to Paris and spend some time there. I didn't really want to go to Paris that much, but if I was honest with myself, I probably wouldn't feel good if I hadn't seen it. Paris was something like the ultimate vacation destination in everyone's plans, in everyone's eyes. So to go to Europe, especially in my position, and not see it would be wrong. I therefore planned a stay in Paris. After that, I planned to take the train once more and visit London for a few days. From there, I would fly to Rome, the final stop of my vacation. I would then take the plane back to Japan. The happiness that filled me in the mornings never went away. I think I was more aware of everything around me on that day. It might have been because I was nervous before my flight tomorrow. It may have been that I made this vacation very important to me, and my expectations were as high as never before. And partially I think it was also the pressure I put on myself that this vacation would change something in me. I really wanted it to be as great as I have imagined, and realizing that it was in fact going in that direction, I felt even more happiness flowing through me. It was as if I was on some drug. I felt very light and somehow sensitized to my surroundings. The breeze, the depth of the city stretching out in front of me, so high up. I saw everything, the riverbanks where I go cycling, the castle and the colorful waste disposal plant in the distance. All of this I would not see for the next 2 weeks. I imagined this completely different world I would be put in. I even purposefully looked at the very few pictures of the places I was going to visit and had planned to decide my specific plans only once in Europe. My Europe guidebook, I planned to open it only in the airplane when in flight, as a sort of symbol that I would stand somewhere else. It was probably a little bit silly when looked at from the outside, but I really believed that all of that would contribute to my experience, and I wanted it to feel as great as I imagined it to be. I walked some more around the top of the building. I didn't know whether I should go back already, but something told me I should stay just a bit more. I didn't think more deeply about my story with Alisa Imonen, but I had small flashes of images of her walking around that round roof, overlooking the city, thinking. I imagined her going up here at night to have time for herself. She would still have that one thing which would be troubling her, but I was too exhausted from thinking to continue. It was still a wonderful day. I feared that my happiness would fade away, but it didn't. When I left the immediate vicinity of the Umeda Sky building, I bought a cold drink from one of the vending machines nearby. I headed home to pack and prepare for my flight tomorrow. Every now and then I looked back at the building, happy that I did it and visited the top alone. My heart was racing. It has been ever since I saw the first high buildings of the Principality. The bus I sat in kept approaching Monaco through the sneaking roads from Nice, and it was like being in a different world. I felt it already yesterday, when we landed in Nice, but it was very late and the bus to Monaco was departing early in the morning. I really wanted to see Monaco the first thing, and I could not put it in words. My thoughts were blocked, and I just kept looking around, like a madman, trying to absorb every single moment. While driving through the Moyen Corniche, I noticed the different road signs, their colors, the markings on the road, the stone barriers, the strange trees all around me, the European cars passing us by. Every single piece of the scenery was different. It was a world like Japan, but it was as if every element was replaced by something which, while still being the same thing like cars, buildings, trees, was different. Different cars, different trees, different width of the road, even advertising billboards were different. They were mainly made from photographs, with less text, I felt. The women wore clothes which were more simply cut and less freely. And everything felt somehow more neglected, the yards, the older buildings. Yet it seemed like it was right not to care too much. I couldn't explain it, and perhaps it was just overwhelming first impression, but it didn't matter because the impressions from Nice were a mere beginning. I could already see Monaco near, and then we passed the signs, and it was reality. I was in Monaco, and I could finally be honest with myself and admit that this was the place I wanted to go to all my life. It was different even to Nice. It felt like something out of a fairy tale. My hands were shaking as the bus arrived at the destination, a park just above the casino. I hastily folded them up. I received at the tourist information office. I figured it would be best if I looked around the casino and then went around the bay through the city and end up at the other side where there seemed to be some sort of an amphitheater. Nice place. It was beautiful. I know that I felt like that because it was my first time in Europe, because it was my dream city Monaco, and because even the weather was so wonderful. It wasn't very rational, and a seasoned traveler might have just shrugged, or simply not be so overwhelmed, because he would be used to the way Europe looks. Well, Poland certainly does not look like that. But I didn't care. I was happy that it had this effect on me, because it was what I had hoped for all the time. Well, there are nice places in Poland, but I don't think you can see something like that anywhere in my country. Like that. And it was really just my first full day in France, but I really felt that all my expectations will be met. I almost laughed at this situation, more than anything because I felt happy, but also because I felt that all those who have warned me that I'd be disillusioned if I got my hopes up too high were wrong. It may be that this was just a coincidence, that I had gone a week later, the weather would be bad, that I would meet unfriendly people, but it didn't happen. And now I was in Monaco, and it was as beautiful as I imagined. I also felt mean in a way, because watching the tourists around me, who were taking pictures and were having a good time, I saw that even though they were happy with their visits, they weren't as happy as I was. They were from Japan and they couldn't be as delighted by the contrast as I was. My situation was unique, and because of that I felt that it did It had more impact on me than on anyone else, even the people from Japan I occasionally saw. I walked around the route I have set for myself, slowly getting away from the tourist tracks. I was slowly regaining my calm after all the excitement, which I purposefully did not try to control. I knew that I wanted to be overwhelmed, excited and happy, as much as I could, because I knew I would calm down after some time. And I felt that the time was slowly coming. And the time slowly came to where we end the episode. Hope you enjoyed it and see you in the next one. Bye.